Hello, ladies and gentlemen. MarauderEX here with a guest. You've seen him before in some of my Let's Plays, mostly Worms and a couple other things. Luthalis, say hi, Luth.
Hey folks, how you doing?
Luth is here with me because I had a rant that I was going to do just myself, and I was just going to rant to the general populace. But Luth and I have been friends for years, and he's one of the few people that I really respect debating with, mainly because even if we're not 100% on a set side, we can always say something to make each other at least think about the opposition or to give a little bit of change in pulse to thought. And so I've invited Luthen for this because this is a subject that's near and dear to him as well. Uh, my whole rant is about the state of the gaming industry, and it's really interesting that we're doing this today because today, as of recording, is the first day of E3. And my take on it is I'm really disappointed with the gaming industry as a whole, mainly because it seems like my big thing is if the gaming industry has started doing things that they're doing today, and they were doing them back in the early 90s during the heyday of Nintendo versus Sega, that it would have killed gaming as a whole.
Give me some, give me something to back that up. What are we talking about specifically?
Okay, so my biggest start is console failure rates. Every console in the history of consoles have had failure issues. But most notably, this generation has had some serious flaws that have just hurt the gaming industry as a whole. The Xbox's red ring being synonymous with not really the console's downfall because the console is still selling very well despite that, and Microsoft has done a very good job of a well sidestepping the problem rather than actually addressing it. But failure rates with the Xbox, the whole PlayStation Network outage for what, 20,
It
24
was,
days?
I thought it was over a month. It might have been only 24.
I stopped paying attention at 24 days. And really, the only system that hasn't had a major default is the Wii, but I really can't count the Wii as a modern system considering it is a GameCube with waggle controls.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I mean, they built a solid system with the GameCube. The only thing that I hate about the Wii is the autoloader. That's the only big problem to go out, and that I've had mine go out, and a friend of mine, his went out. So, but if Nintendo and Sega did this back in the 90s, that would have put them under.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the more advanced you get with something, you're gonna have. We're adding variables to the equation. I mean, if we're talking not just video games but games in general, there's only so much that can go wrong with cup and ball. I mean, your string gets cut and you're kind of fucked at that point. But it's a cheap fix versus the amazingly complex machines that we're kind of toying around with now. I think it's something that has to come with it. If we want to have bigger, better, prettier toys to play with, we're gonna have to put up with some bullshit along the way. And I mean, where we're at right now, the problems with the Xbox, those happened in 2006 through 2008. So I mean, we're 3 years out from that stuff now. Not to say people don't still have issues, but it's not the ridiculous number that it was. The Wii is kind of just a problem in itself. It's not so much that there's anything wrong with it, but there's nothing really right with it either. And as far as the PlayStation goes, yeah, that issue with the hacking just happened recently. But I don't think it's anything necessarily to write off. I saw a lot of people that knew a lot more about security and like internet web security and identity security. Talking about it, how um, this is something that happens fairly often. It just happened to we're kind of living in a an alternative lifestyle, if you will. It just happened that someone kind of stepped onto our baseball field and stole the ball this time. This is something that happens fairly often in banks or whatever. Maybe not on such a large scale, but if someone took a shot at video games and it pissed people off. But I wouldn't say that it was anything out of the norm. It just happened to affect us this time, so we gave a shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, identity theft is a big problem because of the digital life now, and it's not anything exclusive to Sony. But I mean, Sony has had its other problems related to the system. One of the main reasons why I never got into purchasing a PS3 is because they have flooded the market with various SKUs. I mean, every 6 to 8 months, they come out with either a bigger hard drive or a slimmer version. And then I was ridiculously pissed off at the fact that they cut out the backwards
Compatibility.
compatibility.
Yeah.
That was Sony's claim to fame. The PS2, half of the reason why it was so popular was that it was a DVD player. It
Hmm.
was a cheap DVD player when DVDs were quickly becoming the norm. The other half was it didn't obsolete your game library because you could still go back and play those. And Sony just kind of dropped, like they washed their hands of that about halfway through and said, "Okay, fine, we don't
Shit,
care."
not even fucking halfway. I mean, we're talking like 3 months in. They were just like, well, whatever.
True. So I mean, it's I and the PlayStation Network outage, I really can take a step back from because that is a common problem in, like I said, in the digital age. But I actually just read an article this morning that Nintendo had someone an organization claiming to be Lulz Security, LULZ, um, tried to hack the Nintendo network and failed. They're like, "Oh, Nintendo, we just wanted to try it to see if we could," and they failed because Nintendo had a really good. But I mean, that's like trying to hack Nintendo for their security measures is like trying to steal the little penny donation thing at the counter gas stations for Make a Wish. I mean,
You're stealing from the children. You're
exactly.
stealing from the children.
But I mean, I just I really don't think that we're demanding the standards that we should be entitled to as far as gaming. And this is actually a similar conversation I've been having with a friend of mine about cell phones recently. If we had cell phones drop calls all the time. If we had accepted that as a truth with landline phones, I'm just on my landline phone, like early 90s, I would be raising all sorts of cane. And part of it is we are, like you said, if we want to have the nice big shiny toys, we're gonna have to make some concessions. But I'm thinking that we're making too many concessions for what we're getting. I just don't feel that it's like if I buy a console, I buy a console for a gaming machine. If I were going to put up with the having to troubleshoot, I would stick with PC gaming. And if you've been with me as far as PC gaming, we tried to
Yeah.
get Terraria to work.
Oh God, that took us hours. I mean, it was worth it in the end, and it normally is. Well, I think that it's not even so much that I mean, I definitely stand by. We gotta, if we want to have nice things, we gotta put up with the bullshit. But at the same time, too. Okay, so you take you're talking about kind of the golden age of games, and we've got Sega and Super Nintendo, and even towards '96, when we're looking at PS1 stuff. Um, it was different because it was the golden age in that the bullshit hadn't started yet. And look at EA as a prime example. Look at the kind of marketing campaigns they pull. You look at Dante's Inferno came out last fall, last January, and EA hired a bunch of pretend Christians to pick it out in front of E3 and the previous year, and and say that hell is not a game and stuff like this. That's where the money is going now. And if you look back in say '92 through '96, yeah, they had marketing, yeah, they had commercials, they had that stuff, but it wasn't the same. You didn't have rappers. No one was rapping about Pac-Man. But I mean, you've got things that make it on the Billboard charts that make mention of things like Madden or NBA Live or whatever. I mean, you've got AAA artists that are writing songs exclusively for video games, And that's where the money is going now. Versus, okay, if you've got a finite amount of cash to go into your product, and it's 1992, and we're talking about video games, where do you think the majority of that money is going to go? It's going to go into quality assurance. It's going to go into the pockets of developers and the producers, etc. And it's going to go into advertising, but much less so. Versus you look today, where does your money have to go? You've got to pay for a website. You've got to do viral campaigns. If you're a AAA title, you've got to have some sort of meta game on Facebook going on. You've got to have your celebrity endorsements, which aren't new things, but for video games, I mean, we're still kind of we've just now kind of hit the early adult years of video games, and I mean these are all things you have to have. I mean, fucking cell phone games. Text this number to get free content in your Dragon Age 3 or whatever the fuck. And that's where the money is going. And I just think everything is getting spread so thin because they're fighting a war on so many fronts. And I think that speaks volumes for the level of quality that we get because the money pool is a lot shallower than it was because it's being spread so thin.
Well, see, the money pool shouldn't be shallower because let's take an example of how much do you think it would have cost to develop Sonic the Hedgehog?
I mean, if it takes 150 million to make a Final Fantasy game now, back then maybe what, 250 grand.
I'd guess somewhere in the same area. I'd say a couple hundred grand to develop a retro title of that sort at the time. But that's my point. It's like, okay, so those games were Sonic 2 was top of the line shit when it came out. I mean, it's like they were toting the blast processing power of the Genesis, which to this day I think is just something completely made up. But so they put that much money into a game like that, which was fantastic at the time. The graphics and the speed and the music, everything blew everyone away. And then we're sitting here looking at Square Enix, as you just said, costs millions. I mean, most of the games that are coming out now rival big budget blockbusters in
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that I read somewhere that Gears 3 is more expensive than it cost to make Jaws or Close Encounters of the Third Kind or any of the top Steven Spielberg movies. And that's what I find really strange because if it's costing so much more that they're putting into it, why is okay, it's millions of dollars to do this, but why isn't it going into the sections of the game that actually need it as
Well,
opposed to
because
like you said the marketing.
well, yeah, well, that's I mean, and that's a fair point. Because I mean, you got to look at where the money is going. If money was, and I'm not a game developer. I've got little to no insider knowledge outside of my time with retail, but if you say 80% of the budget went into the game proper, like directly into the game. This is lining the pockets of the programmers, and here's the director. This is his paycheck, and blah blah blah. And these are the assets for the game that we're paying for here in 1992. 80%. I mean, you move to today, and would you think that they're still hitting 80% of the money going into the game? Do you think it's less? Do you think it's more? Because I think that we're there's so many different types of marketing now than there were. I mean, look at the lavish displays that we've been putting on E3. Even when E3 kind of became that private by invitation only RSVP with your plus one a couple years ago, and they're trying to blow it back up now. Look at what they did for Skyrim. They have like a 300 yard banner down the side of some of the bigger skyscrapers in some city, New York or something, or probably Los Angeles. But I mean, that kind of stuff, and like I was saying before, these viral campaigns, the cell phone games, the Facebook games, the comic books. I mean, there's a fucking Assassin's Creed comic book that people know fuck all about. There's a Mass Effect novel series. I mean, this is shit that just wasn't done. Years ago, and yeah, okay, so we went from 250 grand for a AAA title to 150 million, for some of the AAA titles, if not more. But the quality, the amount of time it takes to make those games, and the time constraints that they're under. I mean, I weep for the guys at Activision because Bobby Kotick, whatever, he's a dickhead, blah blah blah. Aside, I don't know the guy. he demands a yearly and annual release schedule for those titles. Every Call of Duty, every Tony Hawk, RIP Guitar Hero. Those were things that you had to get these out every single year, and yeah, I guess Infinity Ward and Treyarch had it good because they could piggyback off each other, so they're on a bi-yearly release schedule. But these are guys that supposedly are working, 18, 20 hour days during crunch time. I mean, crunch time is a known thing, outside of the gaming industry. These guys get to the 2 or 3 months before release, and they're working their asses off, and it's because we as consumers, that's what we've come to expect. I don't
Yeah.
know when that trend began, but these are the expectations that we've set for them, and so they've had to adapt to keep up. I think it's just become, we're in that bubble right now. Financially, I wouldn't say we're in any sort of golden age right now, video game wise, because I would say that quality has definitely dropped off since the even PS1. Honestly, um,
I would honestly say the PS1 Saturn era was the end point for me for good games. I mean,
mhm,
after that, it just the N64 had some really good titles, but the N64 was still that console generation.
right.
That was those were the three. After that, it was the Dreamcast, which the Dreamcast had maybe one or two. The PS2 had a couple of titles, but that's when you noticed now that it's DVD, it's between the Dreamcast and the PS2. That was the start of the this has to be a big budget to compete with other forms of media.
I think the other thing too is, I mean, it goes right back in, albeit in a different way, to the bigger, shinier. You're going to have issues. Look at Sonic. Can you be disappointed with something like Sonic? I mean, can you say, I really wish that Sonic had more of blah blah blah? It's very easy for me to look at, say, it's fun to pick on Dragon Age 2, for example, and say, oh fuck Dragon Age 2, you're in one goddamn city the whole time, and it's a bunch of the same fucking backgrounds over and over again. You can't equip your characters. You end up throwing away or selling half your loot because only your main character can equip it. Yada 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 yada. You just can't say that about games pre even 97, I would say. And just for me personally, Final Fantasy 7 comes as, or let's say Final Fantasy 8, because 8's my
Yeah.
favorite Final Fantasy. But 8 stands out as kind of a point where people started saying, this game didn't have enough X, or I wish it had more X. And games weren't, you couldn't do that with games before. I mean, in the 2D era, platforming era, you didn't have that. What could Tetris? What could you add to Tetris? To be like, God, Tetris is great, but it just didn't have blah blah blah. You
It,
couldn't do that before.
it needed more L-shaped blocks, is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Tetris
yeah,
did.
yeah. 50% more L-shaped blocks, and I would have been sold. But I mean, and that's the stuff that sequels were made of back then. We as gamers couldn't, or at least I couldn't. Maybe it's because I was too young. Couldn't conceive of an improvement. Obviously we got Tetris added. What did Tetris Plus and Tetris whatever the shit that they added, the adventure modes, and look at Super Puzzle Fighter and stuff like that. I mean, those are obvious things now, but back then you couldn't even conceive of a way to improve Sonic or Tetris or blah blah blah. And I think that's kind of one of the things, we can't really throw the baby out with the bathwater, because yeah, there's stuff that there's stuff that we can be unhappy about, and right back to Dragon Age 2. There's things I can be unhappy about with Dragon Age 2, but I have to, as a consumer, if I want to get good games, uh, I have to let the people that are making the games attempt to advance the medium. And if every once in a while I get a piece of shit like Dragon Age 2, in order to get a Witcher 2, or oh shit, Resonance of Fate versus Final Fantasy 13. Resonance of Fate stands head and shoulders above 13. Basically, what I'm saying is, in order for us to get AAA stuff that really sticks out, and get our Ocarina of Times and our Final Fantasy 7s, we have to put up with a Dragon Age 2,
Well, see
every now and then.
that's the thing. Is it really that the industry is evolving like that? Because I most of what I've noticed and the complaints that I've seen from a lot of people is the industry's stagnant. Instead of because of how much money that it costs to put in to make one of these budget titles, uh, they say that they don't actually make a lot of profit unless you sell X number of units, which I
Hmm.
can completely understand that, being spending as much time in retail as I have. But because of how much they have to put into it, a lot of developers really aren't, exploring anymore. They're not
You're right.
expanding. They're just sequel. It's the age of sequels.
Exactly.
Gears of War, Dragon Age, Mass Effect. Now, I mean, Mass Effect, I'll concede is a breath of fresh air. When it first came out, I was really impressed. But we're getting a lot of sequels, and a lot of them they're trying to do something new. And I'll use Metroid Other M as an example for
Oh
that.
God, yeah.
I had such high hopes for that because I mean, when you say Team Ninja does Metroid, there
Hmm.
really should not be anything bad about that.
Mm-mm. And well, I mean, the initial trailers they showed off too were just like, wow, this is going to be great. It really looked like Ninja Gaiden meets Metroid, but we we didn't get that. I mean, a lot of the complaints came from giving Samus a voice too.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I worked with a guy who was super Metroid fan, and he said, I don't know why everyone expected Samus to be this cold, heartless bitch that just didn't give a shit, and they were disappointed when she was taking orders and wading through lava to be only to be rewarded with a lava protected suit, etc. But I mean, I think what you're saying. Is it stagnant? I'd say yes, and for good reason. Like you said, they have to make money. What happens if they make a game they don't make any money? They don't get to make any more games, and so for them it becomes a game of do I take a risk or do I be a Me Too sequel and just go with the status quo because I know it'll sell enough to keep me in work or to keep the studio alive or whatever. But and there isn't a whole lot of room for error. I mean, look at games like I just said the Wii didn't have anything good a few minutes ago, but look at Mad World. Mad World was incredible for anyone that played it. They knew that game was great. I would love to see Mad World ported over to Xbox Live or PlayStation Network. It's not a big game; they could do it, especially with the motion control stuff now. But or look at things like No More Heroes, on the Wii.
Which
Um,
is getting ported.
yes, No More Heroes is getting a Japanese PS3 port. I would love to see that ported to America. Um, but I mean, those are games that did something different and they did it well and they undersold. Which isn't to say they don't have a big fan base, but it's a very niche fan base.
Yeah.
And how do you make something like that more mainstream? Well, you make Dragon Age 2.
Well, I mean,
And
but by the same token, look, we've already talked about Terraria, Terraria and Spelunky, two games developed by Spelunky was done by one guy, Derek Yu. Terraria, I think, had a development crew of like two people.
mhm.
I spent some time surfing on the wiki about it, but I mean,
And Minecraft. Let's not forget Minecraft,
Minecraft. Yeah.
which all of these are children of Dwarven Fortress or
Mhm.
Dwarf Fortress. I don't know if it's Dwarf or Dwarven, but I mean all of these are from that. That's a one man team right there. Which if anything, I would say right now is the age of indie developers. Um, though they're the I mean look when you what do you see the most repeated articles on when you go on say Kotaku or OneUp or IGN or Giant Bomb or whatever? You see a whole lot of Minecraft and Terraria, and now is the age of Steam as we're moving into a more digital platform. Um, and people talk about PC dying. I'm certainly the last per. I would never claim to be a PC gamer, but these indie titles are increasingly making me look. I mean, I've got a Steam account now. That's not something I had before, but
Exactly. Yeah.
thanks to things like Minecraft and Terraria and da 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 da. These indie games are really taking over. And you know what? I would go as far as to say that in 10 years, these people now that are kind of small potatoes, the underdogs that were like, yeah, go, 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 these will be the guys that I hope usher in a new area because they're obviously thinking outside of the box. I would love to see what they could do with some money. If someone gave them if someone gave, oh, what's his name? Notch, I can't, Eric Person, the money, the budget for a Gears of War 3, what could he make?
Yeah.
That would be insane.
Well, that brings up my next question. So, one statement that I've pulled from you for years is, uh, you have always said that you are not a console fanboy.
Right?
Consoles, you can take them or leave them. It's the developers that you follow,
Absolutely.
and that's that. that was a mindset that you actually converted me to. I would consider myself a Sega fanboy until you started pointing out that it's the developers that actually made the consoles. Thanks to a conversation with you, I look back and a lot of my favorite Sega games are not Sega in-house. They were developed by a third party like Camelot or uh, such and such. But
Even fanboys, I think they would be surprised if they took a look at the Nintendo games that are not made by Nintendo. I mean, look at New Super Mario Brothers. I believe was I cannot remember the name of the studio, which I'll look up now. But I mean, even that was not made by Nintendo.
yeah.
So point in case.
Um, but with that said, do you think that because the developers now are getting stagnant, we're seeing all these new indie developers. Do you really think uh, that there's an upheaval on the horizon? Do you see the people who develop the Castle Crashers games and things like that starting to replace these big ticket items? Because I mean, look at Angry Birds. Angry Birds is I hate Angry Birds. I'm just gonna go on record saying that. It's been around for years in different forms. I played it like 4 years ago on the Armor Games Flash website,
Hmm.
and it was the same game. And now Adult Swim has their own version of it. But I mean, Angry Birds has topped mobile device charts. Droid phones, iPhones, iPads, tablets. If you have one of those, you have Angry Birds.
Well, I think that's the advent of casual gaming. Tetris was the mother of that. I would say. Well, I mean, you can look at things like Pong, but I mean that was before there was a distinction. If you played Pong, you weren't a gamer. You were. It was just as like saying, let's play chess, or well, let's play checkers. But the now we do have such a thing as a casual gamer, and even more, I mean, there is a spectrum of gamers. You have meta gamers that break shit apart, and they're like, hey man, did you know that if you stand on a Auburn tile in Gameville in X game and you spin counterclockwise 3 times and jump, that you unlock God mode and look like a chicken, or some shit like that. I mean, there are people that just break apart the games like that and know the some way to instantly get level 9,999 characters in Disgaea 3 or blah blah blah. I mean, you have those people that take it that seriously. You have the people the See, there's even a spectrum of casual gamers now that I think about it. I mean, look at someone that plays Bejeweled versus someone that has to be home every 2 hours to water their strawberry patch on Farmville. Or look at the number of games that are Me Too Farmville clones, Mafia Wars. I mean, you get on Facebook now, and I know that Facebook responds to the things that you're interested in, the links you post. But I mean, all down the side of my Facebook, I mean, fuck, I'll look at it right now. I've got Space Marines from THQ, an advertisement there. Destroy Russian tanks. You play as the USA, only tank game ever. Like anime? If you like anime, you'll love this game. That's what's down the fucking side of my Facebook every time I get on there. Those are very different casual gamers from the casual gamers that play Bejeweled or play Tetris or go on any number of casual gaming sites and play word teasers and stuff like that. I mean, and I'm one of those people. I don't think that games have to be just video games either. I wouldn't pigeonhole. I mean, people that play Sudoku on paper are just as likely to play Sudoku in some sort of digital form. So they're casual gamers in a right. And you've got all these casual gamers out there, and they're eating up a portion of that market share now that is that people like EA have to pay attention to it. And I think that's another thing that we're getting as hardcore gamers. I say we're getting the shaft. It sucks for us. It's great for EA because they're making money. But they're going to pay less attention to us. And I mean, they can open up all the new studios they want to, and they can open up a studio that's just devoted to fucking making a puppy mill out of Facebook or whatever. But that is taking away attention from us as hardcore gamers. I I don't really. I'm not sure. What do you think? Do you think that sucks? Do you think that's a good or bad thing?
See, I don't know because up until a few years ago, I would have actually considered myself kind of a hardcore gamer. I considered myself, back in the day, if you spent more than like 20% of your disposable income, and granted, a few years ago, I was, still living with my parents and, still in school, uh, but that's it. High school, most of my disposable income went to video games. And in
Hmm.
high school, I didn't have a lot of disposable income, especially not as much as I've got like now.
Hmm.
But that's that that was the deterring factor of what you how you classified yourself. All of my money went to video games, so I was considered a hardcore gamer. Now, at the ripe old age of 27, I'm sitting here going, "Fuck, I don't even register as a casual gamer." Because um, I did for a subscriber special, I did a review on Kirby's Epic Yarn and Castlevania Lord of Shadows, and I was more interested with Kirby's Epic Yarn than I was Castlevania, and that's a design aspect. But
Right. As I say, that's debatable.
I had more fun with Kirby because it it wasn't something that required a lot of cerebral thought.
Hmm.
So
Well, I think that depends. If they're not, if games aren't giving you something fun to think about, if it's frustrating to think about this game, is that a sign of you changing as a gamer, or is that a sign of the game's changing? But I mean, I definitely see what you're saying, because, like you said, a few years ago, it was how much money did you spend on games, and that's what determined your uh, how much of a gamer you were, or how hardcore of a gamer you were. And nowadays, it's oh, you don't have the platinum trophy for Resistance 2? Like, what the fuck are you? Are you a little bitch? Are you a pussy? What? Your gamer score is less than 100,000? Well, fucking sell your Xbox. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
and that's bullshit to me, because I am a hardcore gamer and I can speak volumes over fucking almost anyone I know, except for maybe you and or Adam or Justin. Um, and the but I was a store manager for GameStop for years, and there were still kids that would come in, and I did. Oh, I'll put it to you this way: I didn't know what the fuck a skull was in a Halo game. Apparently, these are like little cheat things they put in the game. Until last year, I did not know what the fuck a skull was in Halo. I never found a single one of them. Didn't look at the achievements because I don't give a shit about achievements or trophies. And you go on YouTube, and there's probably a million videos for how to unlock the skull in this, and you have to unlock the skulls to do well in the horde mode. Which, by the way, I hate that trend. I hate the horde mode trend. That's popping up in every game now. But basically, what I'm saying is, it's like you said, it's not how much money you spend anymore. It's these fucking achievements, and they're in everything. World of Warcraft added achievements. Facebook achievements. Congregate.com, owned by GameStop. Achievements for everything: badges, trophies, achievements, some sort of proof. But I will say, as an RPG gamer, achievements will never, ever, ever take the place of persistent some sort of persistent level up system. I don't want to show off my friends that I jumped 500 total yards in a game and earned a little coin. Give me an ability. Give me. I don't want fucking pink armor. I don't give a shit about a helmet, Halo, Bungie. I want my character to be able to do something new. Hey guys, I played 500 days worth of Final Fantasy 11. I can now kick the shit out of some fucking hardcore rabbits. That's something that I can do because I played a shit ton of Final Fantasy 11. Versus, okay, I've got a 36,000 score on Xbox Live. What the fuck does that earn me? Nothing.
And for those of you watching, yes, there are hardcore rabbits in Final Fantasy XI. I can attest to this. I've seen them. And I agree with that point completely. I really do. I don't care. I have an Xbox. I haven't had an Xbox for very long. In fact, the only reason why I bought one is because you and Pat actually convinced me that it was a decent system, and that I shouldn't worry too much about the red ring issue. Only 3 years into it. Uh, but so I bought it, and my gamer score is something abysmal. Like my former coworkers at GameStop looked at me like, "What? Do you ever play on your Xbox?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just play the games that I'm interested in." And I'm not really interested in first-person shooters on consoles. If I want to play a first-person shooter, I want to play it on a PC where I've got a much more customizable layout. But the fact that some first-person shooters are starting to do the level up system. Call of Duty, for example,
Mm-hmm.
has
Mm-hmm.
the prestiges, which you know it.
Well, not even just the prestiging, but the because I think prestiging is a form of achievement, which I disagree with because you don't get anything out of it. But just the level up system in general, you do have a persistent character that gains new abilities as you play, and that I'll agree with. But prestiging is just, oh, you've already done everything.
Oh,
Well,
do
do
it
it
again,
again.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed Final Fantasy XI for so long is because as an MMO, it was it was unforgiving. I
Hmm.
mean, you and I have played enough MMOs in our lifetimes to know that this for those of you who haven't played 11, we're probably going to dork out a little bit on this one. Uh, 11 does not hand you anything on a silver platter. It
No,
expects you to work your ass off for any and everything. It doesn't
but
give you any sort of hint as to what you're supposed to do. But
I don't think any game dangles a carrot better than Final Fantasy XI, and that's through years of trying to convince people to give that game a shot. I've just given up at this point, but I think I finally nailed it down to no game dangles a carrot better. Because I mean, you've got every 10 levels, you've got something that you didn't have before, and it's like, oh fuck, only X more levels and I can ride a chocobo. X more levels I can have two jobs. X more levels I can get an advanced job. X more levels I get my artifact armor, which is your when you think of a white mage, what do you think? That's the armor you get. I don't think any game gives you more incentive to just a couple more levels. Come on, just a couple more levels. But the downfall, like you said, was it's incredibly difficult.
yeah,
A 10% experience loss towards next level. It costs you 10,000 experience to get your next level. If you die, you lose 1,000. You get at most 200 per monster. Per a single kill,
yeah.
and so that's ridiculous. It's hours of work gone.
Well, see, I really have no problem with the games being difficult. Like
Oh no, I
and
love it.
you and I stuck with 11 for a long time. In fact,
Yeah,
we keep getting badgered by my wife to get back into it.
shouldn't. I'll log in right now just to look.
Um, but I mean, and that's one of the things that I like about some of the indie games, like Terraria. I'm gonna keep going back to Terraria because I mean, you bought that the weekend that you came down last, and we spent the entire weekend on that game.
I've got fucking 90 hours logged in. Like, how the fuck do I have
Yeah,
90
I've
hours logged on that game? That's more than I played Final Fantasy 13 for a month, and I've got probably 60 hours logged. We played Terraria for 4 fucking days.
solid,
90 hours. Yeah,
solid,
90 hours.
and we didn't like nothing in that game. Like when I sit here and look at it, like what did we do? Oh, I built a house.
Yeah, we literally built. If things were measured in blocks, we built probably widthwise 80 blocks worth of progress, and then just dug straight down and just worked. Okay, this armor set, that armor set, that armor set, done. Okay, we fought what There's 3 bosses in the game. We fought 3 bosses, opened some chests, and that was it. 90 fucking hours.
Yeah, insane. But I mean, this is where I kind of want the gaming industry to go is kind of a 180 as to what they're doing now. I would really love for Square to be like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's stop trying to shove Final Fantasy down everyone's throats.
Hmm.
We've got, I mean, Square has some fantastic licenses that they never use.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
Chrono?
yeah,
Chrono? Anyone?
yeah, I'm waiting for Chrono. I posted this on Facebook a while back. I'll probably post a link in the description of this video. Card Sagas Wars.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Terrible,
yeah.
terrible name because it's a lot of plurals that don't fit together. But it's a fighting game based off the Mugen engine. Mugen? I'm not sure how it's actually pronounced. It's
I
M-U-G-E-N.
say Mugen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Um, but it's it's a fantastic little thing that I really don't think this game will ever come out. I think these guys are just releasing videos just to say that they can. Um, because I remember seeing videos about this like 3 years ago, and I thought that it's the Smash Brothers concept. It's let's bring all these people together just for shits and giggles and have fun with it. And that honestly, I will say Smash Brothers Melee was the last game that I was
Enamored with.
yeah. Brawl was okay. I went to the midnight release for Brawl. Me and Kulik stayed up for probably 12 hours playing it solid to unlock everything. But I they tried to make it appeal to the casual gamer that you were talking about earlier with the various tripping mechanics and the just a lot of the stuff to try to make it more balanced. It wasn't a skill based game anymore. It was just a hey, we're gonna dick off for a couple hours.
Yeah, yeah.
But I really wish that the developers would come, like, just take a step back and it's like, okay, I don't need to spend $1 billion on a game as long as at the core of the game it's fun. Like,
Well, it's what is the I don't know if it was one of the Hauser brothers, the guys that write for Rockstar, or I don't know who said it, but the essence of video games is repeating the same 15 seconds of fun over and over again. And if you look at something like a Minecraft or a Terraria, not to just say that that is whatever you would call that building sandbox genre, that they're the only ones that can be fun. But I think there is an elegance in simplicity, and that is what goes back to the golden age. You just need a couple fun systems. Like for an RPG, an RPG is a series of fun systems that work together to create one larger kind of clockwork that just fits together really well. And this is a game that I played through once. I didn't even beat it, but it stands out as one of the best examples of what I just said. Is the second Shadow Hearts game, Shadow Hearts Covenant. Every character you got introduced some sort of new play mechanic into the game, but it was never pretentious. It was never overbearing. It was never anything. If you didn't want to do it, you just didn't have to do it. But all of these things worked very well. Or the crafting system in Two Worlds 2. Take it or leave Two Worlds 2. But the crafting system in Two Worlds 2, it wasn't anything. It was literally a single button crafting system. It wasn't a bunch of annoying menus. You didn't have to go out and gather all these different supplies. It was just the shit you picked up, you could break down, and you could put it back together into what you wanted to make. And that's kind of actually the essence of things like Minecraft and Terraria is you don't spend hours and hours and hours until the end finding these super rare ingredients with a 2% drop rate. It's just taking the basic mechanics and rebuilding them. And I think games have gotten, I love the word pretentious. The games have gotten pretentious. They are too big for their own britches, and they're trying to kind of expand beyond their own means. You can't, all right, people like you and me, we are the meat of the sales of a company like Square Enix. That's where their money is coming from, is people like us. And we're aging rapidly. I don't have time to read 3 pages worth of text in, say, Mass Effect about the history of the blah 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 kingdom in the blah 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 region. I don't have time for something like that. Some people will do it, and that's fine. But I think that's just something that doesn't fit the game well. Work it into the dialogue in an elegant way. That's what writers have to do. Is they go in and they say, okay, so you've never heard of this character before? Well, I can't give you his fucking resume, and I can't give you every second since he was born about his childhood. So we have to throw hints in as the game goes on. We don't know shit about Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, yet we love him. We know that he spoiler alert, everybody. We know that he's batshit crazy, that he didn't make it into the military, and that he, is kind of a weird dude, and he killed Sephiroth. And that's all we need to know about Cloud. We don't need to read about his parents. We don't even know who his fucking dad is. Or what happened to him. Did he die? Did he live? Blah blah blah. But point being, not to go on too long about it. I think games are trying to be too complex and trying to be too many things to too many different people. Like what you said with Smash Brothers, it's it's the advent of the casual gamer, and we have to. What does Peter Molyneux say? What was he quoted as saying in Fable 2? He wants your mom to be able to play Fable 2 and have fun. Why? Why do we give a shit about what my mom can play? Is it going to really put that much more money in your pockets to make my mom happy and piss me off? Like I just don't get that philosophy.
well, I think the reason why that they're going into that is they want your mom to play it because your mom's hot, and therefore no.
I think he was quoted as saying that. I think you're right.
Your mom's hot, and Peter Molyneux definitely has a thing for MILFs, but that just completely derailed me, honestly. um, like I had a counter to that, and now I'm just gonna give up Peter Molyneux.
We could probably spend a whole segment talking about Peter Molyneux.
We could, and we honestly could, because I swear he has never actually delivered on what he's promised.
No, we used to joke around so much about like his ridiculous stuff for what he was going to do with Fable 4. Which, by the way, folks, if you've been keeping up with E3, they have announced a new Fable game today. and it conveniently and ironically goes right in with what we're talking about. It is a Connect only first person shooter on rails Fable game that your mom would probably enjoy quite a bit.
Yeah, because again, it falls to Peter Molyneux who just wants your mom to be a first-person shooter on
Hmm.
Rails.
Oh yeah, he loves it.
Yeah.
But I want him to come out and just be like, in Fable 6, we decided to skip Fable 4 and 5 so that we can have real time beard growth, real time pubic hairs growing on your character's in game penis. In
If he
Fable,
has a penis, because remember, what if you play a female character? If
oh, you're right.
if we have pubic growth on your
They'll probably have a sex change option. You know what I think will be impressive is when we start having to pay out Xbox Live Point alimony payments and child support to our in-game Fable characters for getting married. That'll be interesting when we start having you can play a some sort of meta game as a judge in a court to decide who gets custody of your Fable children, and start having to pay Xbox Live lawyer fees. I think we'll get to that point if Peter Molyneux has his way.
and that truly will be the death of gaming. Not the whole thing we've been talking about. Now that will be the death of gaming.
But what were we talking about? Before we got derailed on Peter there.
I have no idea. I forgot where we were at, but that's a good. We're at a good kind of stopping point at this point to where we can just be like, okay, everyone who's watching this video, if you've stayed with us through this, we're at like 46 minutes now.
Oh, good lord.
So yeah, but that's fine because YouTube has no limit as long as it's under a certain file size. So this is not a problem. But I want anyone who's stuck with us through this to voice your opinions and we'll respond to it because this is the point. We want to know at the gaming community, and because the gaming community has become so large, so massive, and yet so splintered. Like Luth was saying just a little bit ago, the fact that there are so many different degrees of casual gamer. We want to know what you guys are thinking about it, and where do you think the gaming industry should go from here? Because obviously something needs to be done because you can't expect Square Enix or these other like EA or BioWare or anyone to keep pumping in millions of dollars on games to play the same game over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know what my audience and just various YouTube passersby who happen to stumble across this video based off of whatever reason, and if anyone out there who has experience in the game industry, please share because the more we know about this, it it's one of those, the more informed you are as a consumer, the better decisions you can make toward your purchase, and that's
I would I would love to hear what people say because I mean you and I are coming from a fairly um, similar perspective in gaming. I would say we're both hardcore gamers. You're definitely more of a retro gamer than I am, and I'm more just I'll play it the week it's out. But fuck, X is coming. I mean, example, LA Noire, done with it. I had to be so that Infamous 2 comes out tomorrow. I can be ready for that.
exactly, yeah.
But I would love to hear what the meta gamers and the casual gamers and hell, let's get your mom on here, Chris, and see what she has to say.
Yeah, well, I'll be sure to have mom be like, hey, mom, post your opinion on games. Or my grandmother because of her ultimate power.
Oh yes, definitely.
So,
Oh,
all right. So we'll go ahead and end here. And thank you all for listening. And again, please, opinions. Post opinions. I want to know what everyone's thinking about this. And Luth and I will be here to respond with our own viewpoints. So just comment, leave a video response, all that jazz, and we'll continue this debate in other formats and probably in the future as well as we watch the medium evolve and expand over time as it has. So yeah, this has been MarauderEX, and Luth, say hi, Luth.
hey
All right.
guys.
So yeah, we're out, and till the next time, later, everyone.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Chris, thanks. Had a blast, folks. Hope you enjoy it.
All right.